first start creating art?
So it was about last year, May,
Mhm.
Mother's Day weekend, actually. Mother's Day, Sunday, I started. And mainly because my daughters were home, COVID, had started a couple of months before. So we were really needing to stay in. And they used art as amateurs too, while they were going to college and with their roommates to de-stress. So, that was my gift. It was a brunch, with mimosas and art
Oh
supplies.
my gosh,
And
how
so
fun.
and so we spent the whole day in our back porch, just, drinking mimosas and painting. And that's how it all started.
Oh, that sounds like
So
a perfect day.
yes, yes. And then, from there, I continued.
Mm.
I continued to try and just, I enjoyed it. I found that I did enjoy it. So on my days off, because of COVID, we were, reduced work weeks.
Mhm.
And so then on my days off, I found that I wanted to paint.
Yeah.
So I got my own paints and initially started with just paint, just paper,
Mhm.
and did that for a while and just, went online.
Yep.
First went on Pinterest, and then one of my daughters, Nicole, said, Mom, there's lots of videos on YouTube.
Yep.
So I started going on YouTube and started, watching, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. So then I started trying out techniques, and then eventually graduated to canvas. My daughters bought me canvases and said, Mom, you should really try some canvases. And I was terrified.
I was going to say, it's quite intimidating to go from paper to a canvas because you're like, I'm just going to mess this up and I don't even know where to start,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. But then once I started with canvas, then I continued.
Yeah.
And it's been nonstop since then. And, initially I've enjoyed abstract art. So I have an appreciation since college, it's a long time ago, but, art appreciation. And then I did have an experience where I was able to go to Europe. So I traveled all over Europe for 3 weeks, and I was young. It was my early 20s, and a gift really from work.
Oh,
And
nice.
so I was able to see so much of the history and the art that I had studied in college, right?
Yeah.
And so I loved it. And then come full circle, a lot of years later, I won't tell you how many years later, but then, it's like, wow, okay, now I'm able to create some of this that I've appreciated for so long.
So long, yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing how it kind of sticks with you and you don't even realize it sometimes. Like,
Yes.
I had this experience where I was recently looking through, like, my mom put together like a baby book, and she kept things through the years, and I found this little like biography of for myself that I think I was in 2nd grade, and they had like older kids help me write it. And it was like, when Kristen grows up, she wants to be a painter. Like she's always wanted to be an artist. And I was like, how did I go just all these different years without painting or creating and not even knowing? But I'm the same as you. In college, I would, I took an art history class. I always appreciated art. I'd go to little local galleries, but I never, thought, oh, I should try to give this a try myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's been like, that was it. That was the beginning of it. And I haven't stopped. And I've actually created a little studio here in my home.
Yeah.
And I ended up buying a table as well. And I have all my art supplies, and I have bought, a lot more than I probably need, but it's been, an adventure really. And I, so I've tried different, mediums. I've tried acrylic, I've tried watercolors, and I even did one painting of oil. That one was very intimidating for me. Try a Bob Ross type of a painting that I gave my mother. And that one was harder and more intimidating. And so I need to try another one, but it's this lion, Leo the lion here behind me, is actually watercolor.
Is it?
And yes, and that's something that I actually have enjoyed quite a bit, because you think of watercolor as very, very soft colors and really, not anything really strong. And I have actually created several art pieces that are very deep colors, very bright, vibrant. And so I've enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, I love watercolor too because it's the same thing because I feel like typically when I hear watercolor, I think of like the very like pastel Renaissance paint.
Exactly. Yes.
And so or like the water lilies, and it's
Uh-huh.
amazing because like the watercolor, I feel like it's easier to work with and move with it.
Right.
You can, if you make a mistake, you can easily kind of like, correct it and move with it. So yeah, I've been doing that and kind of mixing too. Sometimes I'll mix the acrylic and the watercolor. And I've
Oh,
been,
you do in the same painting?
I'll mix them together. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of happened only because I ran out of my white watercolor paint and I had white acrylic and I was like, well, let me just try this. And it's been kind of cool to play with it. The different colors, it's a little different. It doesn't move as much because it takes on the acrylic form mostly. It will bleed out in an abstract type way, which I like. I've also been adding a lot of shellac for texture.
which is
I bought some and I haven't used it. It's still sitting, but yes, those are some really interesting things to use. So I'm really enjoying it, and I am enjoying acrylic a lot more than I thought I would.
yeah.
And mainly because I can do some details.
Hmm.
And I started a little bit of nature, and then all of a sudden, and we have a lot of pets or late pets in our family, and so all of a sudden I'm finding myself doing pet portraits.
Yeah.
And with pet portraits and with fur, it was learning how to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm having fun with just finding different brushes that will do different things and experimenting. So that's fun. That's been a lot of fun. So,
Yeah,
yes.
I think exploring what they all different you do, and especially with I feel like the pets and the animals, you do really have to get a lot of those little details in to build the body of like their fur,
Right.
everything,
Exactly.
So
Yes.
how long did it take to do the painting of Leo?
Well, with most of, I think this one I did him before I came back to work. I was out of work for 6 months, mainly for health reasons. It wasn't because of COVID.
Right.
And so I did him probably in November, and so I wasn't working, so I was able to dedicate some time, right? But probably just a couple of days, 2-3 days total.
Yeah.
Of time, because I would, just do a little bit at a time and then layering. And this was watercolor. So trying to layer the watercolor and not, become muddy and all of this, right? So that's the piece. Yes. So that was a little bit challenging, but I loved it. And I had read somewhere that, as long as for a lion, you get the eyes right, that's the most important thing, right? So that's what I was going for. It's okay, if I can get the shape of the face and the eyes, that's really what, and I had wanted to always paint, for some reason, a lion. Lions for me, kind of like lead a pride, right? They're responsible for, for that leadership and making sure everyone's safe and all that. And I've kind of felt that way in my family through the years.
Yeah.
Where I felt that, I had a responsibility. I'm the oldest of 3. And so, my parents separated when we were, I was in my early 20s. So I always felt the responsibility. And so I kind of feel like the lion. I can relate to him. And I've always felt that responsibility that I have to make sure everybody's safe, everybody's cared for. So I relate to it. That's why I brought this piece today, because this one does speak to me, because I had wanted to do that specifically for that reason. So I'm framing it. I got a great frame for it. So.
Oh my gosh. And framing a canvas looks so nice too. I didn't realize like how much it even puts it together even more so. But I love that. And also I feel like when you have that kind of investment in a piece, like, kind of more of like the personal investment into it, the outcome feels even more rewarding sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a huge piece, in this creation, right? The reward of it. It's like, as you're creating as an artist, and I find myself in a different space that I hadn't been before. We live in a very stressful society today, right? Even pre-COVID. Okay. Pre-COVID, we were going, a million miles an hour. Now it's different. But you know what? Our priorities were different then. And so for me personally, my me time was going to get my hair done, going to get a massage, getting my nails done. That's no longer the case. None of it. Okay. Because we're home. This is my me time, creating art. This is where I will wake up early in the morning, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, gosh, it's still too early. I'm like, but I'm ready. And I come to my studio and I start painting, and I love it. It's like, this is what I want to do. If I could do this for a living, this is what I want to do.
This is what I want to do. I know I keep thinking, like, how do I make it into something one day, because it's exhilarating. And like, I find, especially when I'm working on a piece that I'm excited about, I can't think of anything else. Like, I will work all day and I'll get in the work zone, but when I'm off, I'm like, okay, gearing up. Like, I'll do some stretching to get into like a little bit, because it also can be physically exhausting as well.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yes,
Especially when you're doing a lot of detail and you're just kind of in one little place for a long time. And so like, I feel like I'm physically and mentally just all in. And sometimes I feel like it just like feels like a little escape, like I'm just in a little different world doing something that feels so meaningful. And then to see it come together, I always have found that it sometimes will be better than I even imagined I could do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. So when I was, for me creating it, I think one of, you had asked me about inspiration. Where do I get my inspiration? And a lot of it has to do with my family.
Yeah.
So I have 2 siblings and my mom, my parents, and my kids. I've got 23-year-old twin girls and my husband. And I mean, it's just, so I ask, what they want. And so I had asked, my brothers, and one of them said, well, and he was joking, he thought, he's very much into the space program and, UFOs and all of that. Right.
Yeah.
So he said, how about the lunar station?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I thought, oh my gosh, okay, I don't even know what it looks like. The lunar space station, he said. And I'm like, okay. So I Googled it and I saw it and I'm like, okay. And that was very detailed.
Yes.
So did it, of course, in acrylic, and it came out incredible because I was able to capture some of the depth of space.
You did.
Which I didn't think that I could do that. It was just amazing. So just like, wow.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling, and it's like, and I created it, right? And it's like, okay, this came from my head, I mean, obviously you're looking as an artist, you're looking at something that gives you a reference, right?
But
it's not.
The fact that you have to see it in a different way. You have to think about what layers need to go first and what steps are you going to take to get to this full product. It's unbelievable, really.
It really is. It really is. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of it because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you posted that painting too on your Instagram, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yes. I have a lot of paintings. I haven't posted a lot of them on there, especially my early works as I was building, and things like that. But I have some. I actually just finished another pet, my younger brother's dog. So
yeah.
I'm actually, yes, I'm like, okay, hopefully I can get done with pet portraits for a bit. But then as I post them on Instagram and on Facebook, then people are like, oh, you need to paint mine, and family and friends.
And everybody, yeah, I saw the painting you did for Molly, Julian's puppy. It was just so good. It was perfect. And Molly has such a unique little characteristics, and you just nailed it.
She does. And I was so happy with that one. Yes.
Yeah.
It's about, you have to get that in the eyes. That the eyes are so important. If you don't get anything else right, you have to get the eyes, and that's my biggest, thing. If I can get the eyes, and of course everything else, but that stare, that's really, really important. Like capturing the soul. And I felt like for Molly, I did capture her soul. She is a very unique dog. It was fun.
Yeah.
And the more combinations and different textures and colors in the fur, it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do. So
do that one. That's really cool. I haven't really tried a lot with animals yet, but that actually is really inspiring me to give it a shot with my dog, just to play around and see.
Yes.
Yeah. I also, when you said you had all these ones from when you just started, like, I don't know if it's similar to you, but for me, I would go back and looking at, I started on paper as well, and like one of those notepads.
Yes.
Yeah, because I found
I have several, yes.
yeah, I have so many too. And I found that it was less intimidating because if I didn't like it, I could just like flip the page, you know, and if I liked one,
Right.
I could pull it out or whatever. But what I've noticed is the more and more I've been learning different techniques, I'm like, I don't really want to use or post these or don't really care about them. And so one of the things I decided to do recently was pick up all those little pieces and cut them and actually collage them all and like use Mod Podge
Oh,
and create like something totally different with a few of them. Ones that I liked, but it never felt like a full piece, you know? So anyways, it was kind of fun. It was just playing with my hands was like a little, you know, different than just the typical painting. So
right.
yeah, so that was just something I figured I'd share, you know, because
That's great. You know, I tried, you know, I like a lot of different things, and I'm adventurous and stuff.
yeah.
So I tried some, I saw something online, acrylic pouring. So I tried some acrylic pouring, which is one of the paintings that I sent to you. And there are a couple of them that didn't come out as good as I would have wanted, but there are parts of them that I love. And what you just said,
yeah,
it's like, you know what, that's kind of cool. I have them right back here, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to either paint over them, but it's like 90% of it I love, or, you know,
yeah,
80% of it, but there's this one piece of it that I don't like, and I'm like, okay, do I redo that part or just redo the whole thing? But you've just given me a great idea.
yeah.
And they're canvas.
Yeah,
So,
they're canvas. You could even a part, you could even take your shellac and put it over and create something over it, you know what I mean? And add the texture or something. I don't know. I've just been trying to like think, you know, a little bit outside the box of what I have available. And sometimes it turns out even worse, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, no harm here. I didn't like it to begin with as much. So
exactly.
yeah. So,
Yes, no, I have those. I have several pieces like that.
yeah.
And I've thought of there's another one that I thought maybe I would send you, but I need to put resin on it and all of that. And I've just recently started with the resin, and I messed one up, and, you know, so I'm just trying to learn that piece of it, because that was pouring, you know, the acrylic pouring, which is really cool.
Yeah,
I've
never done that. Yeah.
Yes, it is so cool, and every piece is different.
Wow.
You know, and it's a different type of paint. I got really into it, loved it, created probably a dozen pieces, and I gave them to family as gifts.
Yeah.
You know, and so I have some, you know, in my home. I've created an art gallery type of a wall.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of fun, you know, and so, but there are, you know, those are just some different styles. And I thought, okay, I did it for a while, and then I thought, okay, I want to go back to like the brush.
Yeah,
because that's not brush,
right?
That's different. It's pouring, it's, you know, manipulating the canvas and all of that, and using other tools. But then I'm like, okay, I want to go back to the brush. I really enjoy that. So yes,
and I think it's good to kind of go in and out of the waves of what you're feeling, you know, like, because it's really just for your own enjoyment, of course, you know. So it's, you know, nice to sometimes put something aside. And I have a few pieces that like I started, but I haven't finished them, and I kind of go back to them when I feel it, like bigger pieces that hopefully I'll one day wrap them all up, but they were just too big either to do it in 1 week or with like working, you know, and everything. So, but yeah, like, you know, starting some. Do you have any, I didn't include this question, but do you have any pieces that you are thinking about doing next, or that's been kind of, you know, sitting on your mind that you want to create?
So I want to do, you know, I love beaches. I've traveled a lot. I've traveled with my work through the years. I've traveled quite a bit. And, you know, I've seen some beautiful, beautiful places. But then I also like very quaint, like towns and things like that I really haven't done. And in my mind, I remember some. I have to go back and to the photos of back then. You know, we didn't have iPhones and stuff like that, or you know, so you know, some of those types of things of places where I've traveled around the world, I kind of in back of my mind have wanted to do something like that and kind of pick different places that I've been to. Yeah. So yes, I've just been actually between now work and family pet portraits have kept me busy. Yeah. And, you know, I do enjoy painting mountains and nature, trees. I mean, some of my family members call me, I'm like the the tree queen,
Uh-huh.
because I love the details
I
of
love
them. And
trees.
it's finding the right brushes and the, the textures, and
Yeah.
even the, what is it? Oh my God, a pellet knife. Is it? Yes,
Yes.
these.
Oh, I love those.
I
Oh.
love these for mountains and for,
Yeah.
so I really enjoyed that part of it as
Yeah.
well, finding different uses of that stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. So
Yeah, I noticed in the beginning when I first started, I started looking through my book and I was like, oh, wait, another tree. Oh, and another tree. And, oh, I didn't realize I was only doing plants at this point, but they are fun, like all the texture in the trunk of the tree and so forth. So,
exactly,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
I've
I've
even
even,
tried some, yeah,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and even tried some like I like impressionism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I did a Monet one, which I don't think I put up, the water lilies. I haven't put it up on my Instagram page yet.
Yeah.
And I did another one that was like, I loved Paris. I went to Paris a couple of times and when I was young, and part of that main trip, and then another time for work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did another one, and it's so beautiful, and I loved it, and I want to do some more,
Yeah.
impressionism, and I haven't done it. So
Mm-hmm.
possibly, next I
Yeah.
possibly may do something like that. So
Yeah,
anyway.
I just recently went to the Museum of Fine Arts in St. Pete, and
Mm-hmm.
they have a whole section of Impressionist art. And I didn't realize that that's what I loved so much, because in real life, just seeing it up close, it's amazing how, when you're up close to a lot of the art, you're kind of like, what am I seeing a little, what am I exactly seeing? But when you back up,
Mm-hmm.
the whole picture is there.
Exactly.
And there's so much texture in it as well, like lots of layering. And so I've been wanting to try it as well. And in St. Pete, I've been like going, I go watch the sunrise often and the sunset over on the
Mm-hmm.
beach. And one day I was like, why haven't I brought my paint supplies out here and just sat
Right.
outside and looked at my favorite places in St. Pete? I mean, it's as simple as finding those little quaint spots and just bringing out, like a pad or a canvas and just working on it. Which is what you hear, Van Gogh and all of these painters that they did. They would just sit
Exactly. In Europe, they do.
yeah.
Absolutely, they do, because I witnessed it. I saw it,
Yeah.
when I went, and I loved that part of that. Right.
Yeah.
So, but we don't do that. I'm sitting here, yet I could go to the beach,
Right.
and all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
I have painted some of, so I do like, sunrises and sunsets, and I've done some of those on
Mm-hmm.
paper.
Yeah.
Not so much. I did do the recently Cabo, which I had always seen this arch in Cabo, and I've seen it in pictures. So I saw it, online, and I'm like, I'm going to try this. And I did, and I loved it. So I have it hung up. I don't know. I don't think I've actually posted that one either. So there's a lot of art that I need to post.
It's hard to catch up sometimes on social media.
Yes.
I struggle
It
even
is.
myself getting things up for Cultivate. I have so many ideas in my head, and just it's pacing yourself, and both of us work. So, we can only do
Exactly.
a week or two, but yeah. So
Absolutely.
I know you mentioned earlier, and I'm kind of skipping around the different questions, and we've
okay.
kind of spoken to some of them, but so you're mentioning, you brought up the what's it called? The palette tool. I call it a painting knife, but what is your favorite art supply or tool that you use?
Well, I have to say the brushes. I mean, the flat brush is such a great tool, but then there are some other brushes that are specific, for nature, for trees, and the fan brush. So I don't know that I have a favorite, because I try and create with it and try and play with it and see what I can create, right? So I would say it have to be the brushes, because there's so many things that you can do depending on the brush. And I didn't realize that until I started getting into this, right? And what the brushes can actually do. So it's pretty cool. Yes, I do. I would have to say that. And then the pellet, I think it's called a pellet knife, I think.
Yeah, pellet knife.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah. And so those were, I would say, my favorite things. Yes. Because and the paints are different. They have different characteristics, whether you use acrylic or watercolor or oil,
Yeah.
And oil's the one that I am most intimidated,
Me too. Right.
with. And so I would say the other things for now. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And once you build on that, I think the oil is just kind of hard to spread. And really like for me, I had a hard time making it look cohesive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I've tried once, and a lot of it, was the smell of it. And it took, like 10 days, 15 days to dry. So some of those things. So, and was it turpentine that you have to clean stuff with? That's what kind of put me off a little bit. But I did recently buy some, went to and got some paints at Hobby Lobby at 50% off, oil paints of bright colors, because some of the colors that I had were more, nature colors, right? So browns and, these natural colors, but I wanted some vibrant, some yellows and reds and greens. So I want to try some fun stuff with it. Not yet, but I will.
Yeah, I actually at one point was using the oil paints to with the shellac or clay even, but I would use my fingers with it, and so it's probably not like a best practice, I guess, or not. I don't really know, but but so I took the oil and I would kind of like smudge it in with the shellac, and it kind of blended with the color and like brought the color onto it, and it worked really well. And I actually mixed it with acrylic and watercolor, kind of played around for this one piece of mine, which was all over the place. I don't even know if I've posted it. I can't get rid of it because I love it so much. I've put it up on my wall too. So there are some pieces I just have to keep for a while, and maybe one day I'll sell them, but I really enjoy it.
That's a great idea. I may try something like that, because I love abstract art, but I like seeing it, but I've been intimidated by it. But as you're saying that, that's right up my alley. Try something like that. So I got to try it and see, and I'll let you know how it comes out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like the whole thing for art for me is learning how to make it less intimidating, because I know for so long I would put it off because I was so afraid that the outcome wasn't going to be what I had imagined. So I've always that's why I did start with the paper notebooks, because I could just turn it over if I didn't like it. And so that's
exactly.
That's something
I rip it out. I rip it out and got rid of the evidence in case anybody ever saw it.
Sometimes my mom would look through my book and I'd be like, please don't look through that, because there were pieces that I was just like, I don't like the way that turned out. And, but it is, I think that's something I've, tried to promote and encourage on Cultivate, is that anybody can really create, but it's learning how to let go of some of the expectations that we have on ourselves, and creating this masterpiece, and really just enjoying the process. And so I think that was one of the questions that, and we're kind of speaking to it now. I said that for me personally, art is beyond the outcome of the finished product, but rather the experience of creating. I think the part of the question was, what does the act of creating mean to you?
I think it's just starting with a blank canvas for me, and then seeing how, what it will evolve to.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, that's just a lot of fun. And I've been able to play with colors. So I'm not intimidated by color blending, and somehow it's actually been really good. I've been able to blend my own colors, but one of the things that I learned, especially is setting a base color, is to make enough of it and save it. Because I did have a piece recently where, I made a very unique background for my brother's late dog, and then at the end of it, I smudged it with, I dropped my brush, and then I had paint here, so it smudged it. I had a very difficult time
getting that color,
getting the same color, and it was tough. So that's something, you learn things along the way, right? As you're creating and things like that. So, but those, I love blending of colors. Love that part of it.
Do you have, and my friend shared this with me, which is why I got it, but I have like a palette that you can close. It's a container, so it can save the paint too, rather than just using saran wrap. So something, I don't know if you have something like that or not, but I found that I'm able to save color for longer when I use that.
I have one. I bought it, and I have it here, And yet I find that I try and use the paint that I have. I don't put out a lot of paint because I don't like waste. I've never, in anything, I don't like waste.
Yep.
So I'd rather do small stuff unless, what I mentioned. And then I learned, for my following portraits to create, larger amounts for that background. Right. But other than that, I just use that, even though I have it. I love the glass. I bought a glass and then I do have it. And I did do that early on. I did see that, and I used, just plastic. I don't know. It was a container of chocolates, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then I used, paper towels. It's very inexpensive, and I'm glad that artists share that. Yeah. Honestly, some of those things. So I've looked on, on YouTube for do's and don'ts of acrylic, of different things, and so that helped me, right?
Yeah.
I didn't do it at the beginning. I did it later on when I was like, oh, this is no good. So, okay, let me search for something, right? Some advice and stuff. And I love that artists share.
Me too.
So much today. Oh my God, I love that. There's like no selfishness of sharing their knowledge and all that. I love that.
I love that.
So,
do you have a favorite YouTube person or channel that you enjoyed?
I can't say that favorite because I'm still exploring different ones.
Yeah.
I watched, I hate to admit, okay. At my age, I didn't know Bob Ross. My mother knew Bob Ross, and my 13-year-old bonus son knew Bob Ross, but not me.
Yeah.
So then I watched, a lot of Bob Ross to help me with nature.
It's amazing.
Yes, exactly. And it's so that was a lot of fun. And then I did watch some Angela Anderson is another artist on YouTube that I watched, a lot. And she does tutorials and things like that. So and then just started watching some others. So I don't have a favorite because I've learned different techniques from different ones.
Definitely. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. There's so much out there. So it's like trying to pinpoint. There's some on there that they don't have a lot of instructional. It's like you watch it and you can listen. And those I don't prefer. I typically like when someone's speaking. So, it's just kind of, I adjust to. But yeah, it's amazing what you can find. And if you think of something, there's usually some kind of pro trick, on YouTube. So
yes. And so that's honestly has been my schooling. I've done that, and then I've just trial and error. And I saw this, one of them said, what? The beauty of like acrylic or even, watercolor is that, you don't like it, you just paint over it.
Exactly.
And you start over, and it's like, which is great. So that took a lot of that intimidation away.
Definitely.
With the canvas, especially because I was very, very intimidated with canvas. And it was like, well, if it doesn't come out, well, then just kind of like cover it and start over.
Exactly. Well, I think, I think we kind of discussed, a lot of these questions in our conversation. Because I think we did.
We did.
Yeah. So I want to thank you again for donating a piece as well to Cultivate the Creative. And,